There's a small town tucked away in the northeast corner of Kansas, where life moves slowly and the streets stay quiet after sunset. The town is called Atchison. On the surface, it looks like any other peaceful place in the Midwest. Brick buildings, tree-lined sidewalks, and old houses standing like time capsules from the past. But locals will tell you there's something different about Atchison, something you don't see in the tourist brochures or history books. In fact, if you ask around, you might hear whispers about one particular house, a house that many believe holds a dark and restless energy. Its story has been passed down through generations. Some call it a ghost story, others call it a warning. This house isn't tucked away in some forgotten field. It stands right there in town, quiet and unassuming. Just another piece of architecture from the Victorian era, but it's anything but ordinary. It has a name, the Sallie House. To most people, it looks like a normal house, but those who have been inside say otherwise. Over the years, strange things have happened there, things that defy explanation. Some have left in a hurry, some have refused to ever speak about it again. Locals say that even as a child, you learn to cross the street when walking past the house, not because you're told to, but because something deep down tells you to keep your distance. Stories about the house have spread far beyond Kansas. Paranormal investigators, YouTubers, even TV crews have all come searching for the truth. Some came with cameras, others came with curiosity. Most left with more questions than answers. But to understand what makes this house so unsettling, we need to go back in time. Back to the beginning. Back to the moment when the story of Sallie was born. And it all started with a knock at the doctor's door. On a quiet street in Atchison stands a house that doesn't quite blend in. From a distance, it looks ordinary. 2 stories tall, wooden frame, white paint faded by time. But the closer you get, the more it feels like the house is watching. The architecture is old, classic Victorian style, with pointed rooftops and narrow windows that almost seem like eyes. Some people say the house breathes. Others say it listens. Neighbors have noticed that animals avoid the property. Birds won't land on the fence. Dogs bark when they pass by. Even people who don't believe in ghost stories admit there's something unsettling about the place. This is the Sallie House. It's not abandoned. It's not a crumbling ruin, but it has a presence. The kind that makes your skin feel colder the moment you step on the front porch. At first glance, the house tells a simple story. Built in the late 19th century, used as a home and sometimes as a doctor's office. Over time, families came and went, but one story stayed behind. A story that changed the house forever. Visitors often describe a strange sensation inside, a heaviness in the air, lights that flicker for no reason, rooms that seem colder than the rest of the house even in the middle of summer. Some say they hear faint footsteps upstairs, even when no one else is home. Others claim the feeling of being watched never leaves, not even for a moment. And the nursery, that room has its own history. Some refuse to even enter it. It's been said that children who visit the house become restless or upset, even without knowing anything about its past. Locals avoid the property, not because of how it looks, but because of how it feels. Even those who don't believe in ghosts admit there's just something wrong about it. Tour guides in Atchison sometimes bring groups by the house, but they rarely stay long. A few take photos. Fewer dare to go inside. The windows, though silent, seem to stare back, as if the house is remembering everyone who ever crossed its doorway, as if it's waiting for someone to come back. And in the next chapter, we'll meet the girl behind the legend, the one who gave this house its name. Her story is short but unforgettable. Every haunting has a beginning. And for the Sallie House, it began with a knock at the door. It was many years ago, long before television. Crews and paranormal teams came looking for shadows. Back then, this house wasn't known for fear. It was known for medicine. The man who lived there was a doctor, offering care to the families of Atchison. One day, a young mother arrived, clutching her daughter in her arms. The girl's name was Sallie. She was small with dark eyes and soft brown hair, but something was very wrong. She was in pain. Her stomach hurt so badly she could barely speak. The doctor examined her quickly and suspected a dangerous condition, something that couldn't wait. It needed immediate surgery. In those days, medical tools were basic. Options were limited. The doctor acted fast. But there was no time for proper preparation. No time for full anesthesia. The little girl was laid down on the table. She cried out, scared and confused. And as the operation began, something in the room changed. Some say she passed from shock. Others say from pain. But whatever the reason, Sallie never got up again. She was only a child. After her passing, the house changed. People began to feel uneasy inside. Cold drafts would appear from nowhere. Lights dimmed without reason. And in the years that followed, more than one visitor claimed to see a young girl wandering the halls, wearing a simple dress, holding a stuffed toy, or hiding in the corners of a room. Some believe it's Sallie. Others believe it's something else, something that took on her shape. But no matter what you believe, one thing is clear. This house remembers her, whether out of grief, guilt, or something deeper. Her presence has never truly left. And in the next chapter, someone new moves in, a young couple looking for a fresh start, in the wrong house. It was the early 1990s when a young couple, Tony and Deborah Pickman, were looking for their first home together. They wanted something simple, something affordable, a place to start their new life as a family. And in a quiet part of Atchison, they found it. A charming old house with history and character. White paint, a welcoming front porch, and enough space for a future nursery. It looked perfect. They had no idea what they were walking into. In the beginning, everything felt normal. They moved in, unpacked boxes, arranged furniture. Deborah decorated the nursery with stuffed animals and soft colors. The house felt peaceful. But the peace didn't last long. It started small, lights flickering, cold spots in warm rooms, toys in the nursery moving ever so slightly, even when no one was nearby. At first, they laughed it off, just the quirks of an old house. But the small things didn't go away. In fact, they started to grow. One day, the couple came home to find stuffed animals arranged in a perfect circle on the floor, something they never did. Another time, picture frames on the wall were found turned upside down, with no explanation. Then the scratches began. Tony would wake up with red marks across his chest and back. Thin, shallow, almost like fingernails. He didn't remember having any dreams. He never felt anything during the night. But the marks were there, fresh. At first, Deborah thought he might be hurting himself in his sleep. But the marks kept appearing even on days he slept peacefully. Sometimes they'd appear while he was awake. One evening, while filming a family video, Tony felt something burning on his arm. He pulled up his sleeve. 3 long scratches had appeared out of nowhere. That's when they stopped laughing. They reached out to friends and family, hoping for a rational explanation. Maybe stress, maybe the house settling, but no one had answers. And behind every strange moment, there was something else, a growing sense that they were not alone in the house. The nursery, once filled with warmth and hope, became cold and uncomfortable. Their dog refused to enter it. Guests felt uneasy, often asking if the house had a strange energy. Tony began to change. He felt tired, irritable, sometimes even angry without reason. The house was affecting him in ways he couldn't explain. It wasn't just odd occurrences anymore. It was personal. And whatever lived in that house, it had noticed them. The strange events inside the Sallie house didn't stop. They evolved. At first, it was things moving. Then came the scratches. But soon, the energy inside the house became harder to ignore and much harder to escape. Tony felt it most. He was no longer just tired or angry. He began to feel watched every hour of the day. Even when no one else was around, it felt like eyes were on him. He couldn't explain it. He didn't understand it, but the feeling only grew stronger. Deborah, too, began noticing more. Lights would turn on by themselves. Items she had placed carefully in one spot would vanish and later be found somewhere strange. The nursery, once ready to welcome a baby, felt completely wrong. It became colder than the rest of the house, no matter the season. One night, Tony heard footsteps upstairs, but no one was there. He climbed the stairs with a flashlight, calling out softly. The footsteps stopped. He checked every room, nothing. Then, just as he turned to go back down, a small shadow crossed the hallway in front of him. Not tall, not fast. Like a child. He stood frozen. That was the first time he admitted it out loud. There's something here. Soon after, things grew worse. Tony started getting hurt in front of other people. Deep scratches would appear across his stomach or arms without warning. Once, during a visit from a friend, he was thrown back by an invisible force. No one could explain it. They all saw it happen. Deborah became scared not just for her husband, but for their safety. Whatever was in the house didn't seem shy anymore. It didn't seem curious. It seemed angry. They tried to find help, Paranormal researchers, psychics, investigators. Some said it was the spirit of Sallie, a child, confused and still searching for peace. But others had a darker theory. They believed what was in the house wasn't a little girl at all. They believed it was something else. Something that could appear innocent, but wasn't. Something that wanted to stay. The house had gone from mysterious to terrifying. The energy inside it wasn't just restless, it was aggressive. And the deeper they looked, the more they began to wonder. Had something ever really left this house? Or had it always been there and waiting? As the story of the Sallie House spread, curiosity turned into investigation. Paranormal teams from across the country came to Atchison, drawn by the strange reports. Some came with cameras, others brought special tools, devices meant to detect energy, voices, or changes in temperature. All of them came with one goal: to understand what was really happening inside that house. What they found was not simple. Many of the teams recorded unexplained activity, voices caught on tape, sudden cold spots, equipment that malfunctioned only inside the house. Some investigators saw shadows move across empty rooms. Others felt like they were being pushed or touched when no one was near them. The most chilling part? They didn't always agree on what they found. Some believed the spirit of Sallie was still inside, a young girl confused, still attached to the home where her life ended too soon. These teams spoke gently. They believed she needed peace, but others had a different view. They believed something was pretending to be Sallie. They described a more powerful presence, one that used the image of a child to get close, one that fed off fear and attention. According to them, this was no longer just a haunted house. It was something much darker, possibly even dangerous. Tony and Deborah had already started to feel that themselves. The longer they stayed, the worse things got. Tony's mood shifted. He felt drained, angry, and sometimes lost, like his thoughts weren't always his own. Deborah feared for his health and their future. Eventually, they made the only decision they could. They left the house. Even after moving out, Tony said he sometimes felt the presence follow him. Like it wasn't just the house, it was whatever had attached itself to them while they were living there. To this day, investigators still visit. Some claim to make contact. Others leave early, feeling uneasy or even sick. The house seems to choose how it reacts. Some people feel nothing. Others feel watched the second they walk through the door. And while many still call it the Sallie House, others believe the name might be a mask, not for a child, but for something far more complex, and maybe far more ancient. In the final chapter, we return to the present and the house that still waits in silence. Today, the Sallie House still stands. It hasn't been torn down. It hasn't been abandoned. In fact, it's open to the public. You can visit it, walk through its rooms, even spend the night if you dare, but don't expect a normal experience. Visitors report many of the same things the Pickmans did years ago. Cold spots, flickering lights, the sound of footsteps above even when no one else is in the house. Some people say they feel welcome at first until the sun goes down. That's when the energy changes. A few guests have left before midnight, too shaken to stay. Others have captured strange photos, unexplained shadows, or eerie voices whispering on their recordings. Some see a little girl standing in the nursery. Others see something else, something they can't describe. What's inside the house? Is it really Sallie? A lost child spirit clinging to a place she once called home? Or is it something older? Something that wears the mask of innocence to invite people in, then shows its true face once it's too late? We may never know for sure. Even the experts can't agree. What's clear is this: the house affects people. Not always in the same way. Not always in ways you can predict. But no one leaves unchanged. Some say the house chooses who it shows itself to. Others believe it's always watching, always waiting for someone sensitive enough to notice, or vulnerable enough to touch. And in the quiet of the night, when the house is still and the town outside sleeps, those who've stayed say they feel something brush past them, soft, cold, like a child's hand. But when they turn around, no one is there. The Sallie House is more than just walls and windows. It's a story. It's a question. And it's still alive. So the next time you find yourself in Atchison, Kansas, look for the house on the corner, the one with the quiet windows and the locked nursery door. And ask yourself before you go in, what do you believe is waiting inside?